Hello, this tutorial will help you get your CSS modified. CSS is cascading style sheets. The first thing that you want to do, of course, is log into the class server, so mstsc. Next thing you do is type in the IP address of the server, 130.160.115.164. This is after, of course, you've connected to the VPN. Then you can connect to the server with a remote desktop connection with the IP 130.160.115.164. Click Connect. You're going to want to type in your BAMA username and your campus-wide ID plus pound ABC. And click Yes right here. This will log you in. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to play around with a little CSS. So what I did was, I don't know if you remember, but the other night in class we looked at the computer science website for UA. And so what I did was I captured the computer science website, captured the files and the folders and the images and things like that, and I've saved it as a zip file. So we're going to actually mess with the CSS on that computer science page. We're not actually messing with the real computer science page. We're just messing with a copy of it, just so that we can play around with CSS and see what it's like. Because we could create CSS from scratch. However, it's more fun, and I think it's a more fun at learning experience to actually play with a site that uses CSS, because the computer science website had a lot of good CSS rules and practices in there, and so they tied it together really well. So let's take what they've done and mess with it so we can learn a little bit about CSS. That's basically all I want you to do. Just get a little bit of exposure to see how it's written, why it's written that way, and what happens when you change things. So I have placed the little zip file of the computer science website on our server. It's on the C drive, and it's in a folder called Share. All right, and then there it is, CSS Lab. So what I'm going to do is right click on CSS Lab and left click on Copy. Then I'm going to click on the Start button again, go to My Folder. I'm going to browse in my profile folder to my website folder. I emptied out those pages I did last week. You'll probably still have yours, and that's great, but I deleted mine just so I wouldn't get confused with what I'm doing this week. But if you've got files in there, that's fine. You don't have to get rid of them. We're just going to right-click and paste that zip file in here, and then we're going to right-click on it again and left-click on Extract All. It's going to send it to this folder path right here, so we'll click Extract, zip zip, and now it's done. Okay, so let's close that folder out. So what you should have at this point in your profile folder is a folder called Website, which you used last week, and you should have your zip file called csslab.zip, and then in there should be a folder called CSS Lab. Now when you double click on that folder, there's another folder called CSS Lab, and in there is the page, the main page of the site, some JavaScript components, some images that go with it, and then there's the actual style sheet, the cascading style sheet right there. So let's go to CMonkey. We're going to open that page up. So to get to that, what we do is we type in http://localhost// your BAMA username, so mine is Clay, and then we're going to go to the first CSS Lab folder. Going to go one folder deeper than that, CSS Lab again. We're going to hit enter. That'll give us what we call a directory listing of what all's in that folder. So again, localhost / your username /csslab/csslab, and then you'll just want to click on the cspage.html. And what that'll do is it'll bring up the copy that I made for you that you can play around with. You'll notice that the copy here looks pretty good. Well, let's go ahead and start messing with the CSS script, okay? So down here is right next to your CMonkey icon is a little folder icon, and it shows me the share that I had open from the server. I'm going to close that one out. I don't need that one anymore. The next thing that I can look at is the actual files that I browsed to a minute ago. So it's my username, website, CSS Lab, and in here is the style sheet. So I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to left click on Open with Notepad. So I can see I've got the Notepad file here. I'm going to go ahead and close out this folder. I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to look at the changes I make as I make them to the website. The first thing I'm going to do is scroll down here to your main HTML elements. Okay, you'll notice, from last week we talked about body, we talked about H1, things like that. So these other things are other HTML elements, and what the CSS will do is it'll let you set here in this file how you want those things to look or to be styled, and then it'll reflect it on the actual page. So this way it actually helps you separate the aesthetic editing components from the actual content. The content is going to be in the file called cspage.html, and the look and feel of that site is actually embedded all in this style.css file right here. Alright, so the first thing I want to change is this text here. I want to change the size of this text here. So that's going to be in P, okay, a paragraph, and it's at 1.4 EM, which is basically a sizing demarcation. So let's bump it up to 3.0. Okay, we're going to save that. Then we're going to go back to the page and we're going to reload. Now I want you to watch the size of the text down here. It got really huge big, didn't it? That looks gross. I mean, it was a change that probably nobody would ever want to do. So let's put it back to 1.4. We're going to save that. And refresh. Okay, now it's back the way it was. Now we're going to go one extreme more, and instead of 1.4, let's make it 1.0. Click File and Save, and then refresh our page. And now it's teeny tiny. It's teeny tiny, but it actually looks kind of cool. Not bad. We'll leave that there. All right, let's play with some more stuff on the page here, okay? So paragraph big, paragraph smaller, H1, I'm going to leave all those the same. I'm going to go down to the part that talks about the main navigation bar. Now this is actually the main navigation section in the CSS page. Notice that they commented so that we would know where we are as far as the CSS page. To do a comment in CSS, it's a slash and a star. And then to end it is a star and a slash again. Okay? Alright, so this is talking about the main nav stuff. We're going to go down and just, there's a specific section that's fun to mess with. And that's this section right here. Okay? So when we look at this page, you'll notice that when you hover over things, it turns white. You'll notice that this background for this strip here is a certain color as well. Well, that color is defined right here. Okay, so let's mess around with that. So the color right now is pound 333. Well, let's change it a little bit. Let's bump it up to like pound 888. We'll save that. Refresh our page, and you'll notice it went from a black to kind of a lighter gray. That's okay. The only problem is that on the left and the right hand sides it looks different right there. So that's a change that I could make, but I think I'm going to put it back to 333. Alright, let's save that. Go back here, refresh it. Okay, now it's back the way it was. When you hover over things, it turns white, the background turns white and the letters turn red. Well, that's cool, but what if we didn't want that to happen? What if we wanted to change the background color to something else? So what if we put in something like AAA? Alright, let's see what color that is. We'll save it, go back here, we'll refresh, and now when we hover over, it's kind of a nice gray. I actually kind of like that. That's a lot better to me than the stark white that it had before. Alright, before we quit this little quick tutorial, okay, on how to mess with some of the stuff on this page, let's mess with the font size, okay? So right now, the main nav font size is a font size of 15. So it's a font size of 15. So let's just really quickly, let's go in and we'll change it to a different font size. What if we changed it to 8 pixels? So let's File, Save, whoops, File, Save that. All right, let's go back here. We're going to refresh it, and you'll notice it got really teeny tiny small. Now, that's not really helpful, is it? So let's bring it back up to something that's a little bit better to read. It was at 15. Let's try 20 and see how 20 looks. 20 is really big. I think maybe we should go something in between. Let's try 16. 16 will be slightly bigger than before, but not as big as it is now. There we go. That looks nice. Okay, so what I want you to do is just scroll through these things, play around with some stuff, and just change it, and then hit refresh and see what happens. Just kind of like what I've done here. You know, change some font sizes, change some colors, background colors. If you mess with any of these things in here, widths and things like that, you'll see that the page actually begins to contort and the shapes and things start to change, and it looks kind of crazy. Play around with it. See what you like, okay? That's all for this lab. When you're done, just exit out of that, log off, of course, and email me what you've done, and I'll go ahead and take a look at the changes you made to that CSS, and we'll just see how much fun you had with it.